You're listening to The Jewish Truth Bomb with Lenny Goldberg.
Hey, this is Lenny Goldberg, and thank you for joining me today. The big news, of course, is the Hezbollah attack killing 12 Jewish children in the Golan Heights. And whether it's Jews or Druze who are attacked, the point is that it's an attack on Israeli sovereign territory. And so it's not just the Galilee that's going up in smoke. Now we're starting to lose the Golan Heights too. And of course, the government of Israel, they'll strike back heavy like they always do. They always wait until lots and lots of blood is spilled, and then they do something. It's always tit for tat, like they did a couple weeks ago in Yemen. They're never proactive. And when you're always retaliating, and that's why they're called the Israel Defense Forces, you're always on the defense. When you're always responding and not proactive, that just gives the enemy a chance to hide. So the leaders of the Hezbollah, they know an escalation is coming their way. So they have lots of time to hide. They're on high alert. They know the IDF is coming. And so everything we do is so predictable. And how many thousands of rockets have been fired into Israel for close to 10 months? How many injured and killed are there? How much property has been destroyed? How many Jews are in exile from their homes in the Galilee, in the south? Now we're going to go in. And we're going to make sure everybody knows it too. Anyway, this past Shabbat, it was Parshat Pinchas, which is the Parsha of the Nikama, really. Pinchas, he saw an abomination, and we won't get into right now what that was. And he rose up from the midst of the congregation, and he took a spear in his hand, and he did what he did. You could check that out in the book of Numbers, chapter 26. And right after that, God gave him a yesher koach. He said, Kol hakavod. He said that Pinchas turned away my wrath from the children of Israel. That is, Hashem was going to wipe out the children of Israel. And Pinchas saved them from that punishment. B'kano et kinati, and that he was jealous for my sake. And Rashi says, shetikom nikmati, that he took vengeance for my sake. So Pinchas becomes the symbol of the nikama, vengeance. And the concept of vengeance, that's one of those subjects which really comes into conflict with Western culture. And that's why even Orthodox Jews will distort the awesome concept of vengeance, because they too are influenced by the outside culture and trends. But the fact is that nikama, vengeance, that's the way to redemption. As the sages teach us, when God takes vengeance upon the nations, his name is magnified. And so from vengeance, we have a straight line to Kiddush Hashem, for the magnification of God's name. And we have a straight line to the Geula, to the redemption. And we know that the final war is going to be a conglomeration of the nations that come upon Israel, and there's going to be great vengeance, and that's how his name will be sanctified, because that's what the nations understand. That's how you make God great. Not by sacrificing your holy soldiers on the altar of some distorted ethics, so the world will say, oh, what a wonderful people we are. No, that's not how you get respect in Kiddush Hashem. The nations are impressed by power, by body counts. That's how they know that there's a God in Israel. And so through this concept of Nikama, you actually have so many concepts that go through it. Kiddush Hashem, redemption, Mesirut Nefesh. All that goes through the concept of Nikama. Why Mesirut Nefesh? Because it does take Mesirut Nefesh, self-sacrifice, to carry out vengeance. To be a Pinchas, you got to sacrifice yourself. To be the one who feels the pain and does something about it. And so by exacting vengeance, Nikama, that's how you show you care. And it also shows that you don't care what the Western world thinks. You know it's a lofty concept, and you're not influenced by the foreign concepts. And so through the subject of Nikama, vengeance, embedded in that concept is the courage to say the truth. Now, what is so great and awesome about Nikama that it's the key to redemption? Well, King David says it in Psalms 58. It says like this, Yismach Tzaddik ki chazan hakam. Happy was the tzaddik, was the righteous, who saw vengeance. Pa'amav yirchatz bedamav rasha. He washed his hands in the blood of the wicked. Sounds kind of barbaric, doesn't it? Something that the Hamas would say. But if you're doing that to the evil, then it's a good thing. Just like cops have guns and robbers have guns, that doesn't make cops and robbers the same thing. And so, yeah, King David says, Happy is the righteous who saw vengeance. He washes his hands in the blood of the Russia, in the blood of the wicked. Now here's the key. Here's the key to why it's great, why Nikama is great. V'yomar Adam. And then man will say, that is, after he sees the vengeance against the evil and the obliteration of that evil, V'yomar Adam. And then man will say, Ach pri l'tzadik. There is reward for the righteous. Ach, yesh Elokim shoftim ba'aretz. Indeed, there is a God who judges the land. So that's the key. Only when there's nikama, vengeance against the evil, and he falls, then the world could say, you know what? It's worth being a tzaddik. It's worth being righteous. There's reward for the righteous. Yesh din, yesh dayan. There is a judge that rules the land. But if you let the evil run wild and succeed and thrive, then it's a chilul Hashem. It's like there's no God. It's not worth being righteous because look what happens to you. That's the real reason, the deeper reason, why we have to obliterate Hamas and Gaza along with it. And that's the reason why we have to nuke the Hezbollah. Because as long as it thrives, as long as it exists, after what they did to us, and you don't exact nikama, the world says, Ein Elokim shoftim ba'aretz. The Jewish God doesn't rule. The Jewish God is weak. There is no God. That's what the desecration of God's name means. In Hebrew, desecration is from the word halal, chilul Hashem, which means empty or vacuum. You empty God from the world by not exacting vengeance and doing to them what they did to us, and 10 times more so. So drop your Western mindset and just think practically as well. If the world saw Israel obliterate the Hamas, I mean, turn it into dust. And if the world witnessed Israel bombing Lebanon into Kingdom Come, and we have the capacity to do it, don't you think most of the world will be saying, wow, that's pretty cool? And the ones who hate us, who call us genocidal, at least there'll be a reason to call us that. And besides, who cares what those freaks on campus say? The average Gentile, he'd love to see Israel bomb Gaza to smithereens. That would be Kiddush Hashem. It's not Kiddush Hashem when we brag that our soldiers get killed in order to save Gazan civilians. That's just twisted and that's sick. Now, getting back to Pinchas himself, it says, after Pinchas did what he did, after Hashem praised him for taking vengeance, he says, V'yechaper al bnei Yisrael, and he atoned for the children of Israel. And the Midrash asks, what do you mean he atoned for them? When you talk about atonement, that usually means that he offered a sacrifice. That's when the term atonement is used. So what kind of sacrifice did Pinchas offer? And the Midrash answers, he who spills the blood of the wicked, it's as if he offered a sacrifice. You see that? It's not that we avenge ourselves and retaliate against the bad guy because we have no choice and they started and we gotta protect ourselves. No. We do it because it's like offering a sacrifice in the temple. And so today there is no temple. And we can't bring sacrifices. So let's kill a lot of these bad guys, and that'll be like a sacrifice. The blood that you spill is like a sacrifice on the altar. And so when you have something evil like the Hamas or Hezbollah, that is something that has to be fought and never tolerated. You don't fight them in order to bring back the hostages. That's not the point. If you bring them back, that's great. But that's not the point. You do it because you want to wipe out evil from the world. As King David says in Psalms 139, for I hate them, O Lord. You hear that? David hates. Okay, sometimes you have to hate. For I hate them, O Lord. Those who hate you and those who rise up against you, I will rise up. I hate them with total hatred. They have become my enemies. So that's what King David says. Somebody who hates you, somebody who hates Hashem, I hate them. That's in Psalms 139. Write that down next time you're reading Psalms. Check out that verse. And so, of course, vengeance against the wicked is a Jewish value. Evil is a thing to be avenged. And that's how you sanctify his holy name. We cannot forget the crimes of October 7th. We can't let that fade and turn this whole thing into some hostage deal and negotiation. Now, the reason why even Orthodox rabbis don't see it this way and they talk about negotiating and the things I say is foreign to them, that's because the Torah has been tragically limited to the synagogue, the yeshiva, the kitchen, the bedroom, the supermarket. And so because Judaism has become a religion rather than an authentic religio-national concept, we've lost these nationalist concepts and we turned Judaism into a religion. But you know, the word religion doesn't exist in the entire Torah. I want to bring another source, and there are so many sources, but just a good one in Masechet Rosh Hashanah, page 23. And on this page, they lay down the rule that punishment will be meted out to all those who persecuted the Jews because there is no forgiveness. And this is what the rabbis tell us. Woe unto the nations, for there is no hope. What does that mean? In the place of brass, I will bring gold. That is, there's an atonement for everything, just about. In place of brass, you can bring gold. Instead of iron, I will bring silver. Instead of wood, I will bring brass. And for stones, iron. Okay, so you can compensate for the destruction of the temple somewhat. But what was done to Rabbi Akiva and his comrades, what was done to them, what can you possibly bring to atone for that? And concerning that, they bring the verse in Joel chapter 4, though I cleanse their bloodshed, I will not cleanse. That is, there is no way of cleansing the blood of Rabbi Akiva and his comrades who were killed by the Romans. For the blood shed by the nations, for the Jewish blood they spilled, there's no forgetting and there's no forgiving. It's not like, oh, you massacred my people. Okay, let's negotiate now. No. And so again, vengeance is a fundamental Jewish concept for the basic natural reason that if evil isn't punished and repaid, then the whole concept of reward and punishment is questioned. Then the entire concept of a God who rules the earth is called into question. If there's no retribution, then it's not worth being God-fearing. It means that crime pays. And so that's what vengeance means in Judaism. It's the proof of the existence of God, nothing less. Because again, if the wicked can do terrible things and not be punished, then of course people are going to doubt God's existence. And that's why King David writes in Psalms 9, he says, the Lord is known by the judgment which he executes. That's how he's known. And so this isn't barbaric, this isn't primitive, this is emes, true Judaism. And if you want to learn how a Jew fights war properly, you can follow me on Lenny Goldberg's Bible Classes, a podcast on Spotify and other platforms. We learn about the wars of King David. We learn about everything that's written in the book of Shmuel, in the book of Kings. And it's in the Bible, in the Tanakh, where these concepts are brought forth. I want to play now a couple of minutes of Rabbi Meir Kahane speaking at Yeshiva University in 1988. And this is very important because what's most painful is that the Orthodox Jews, rabbis, they don't chap these concepts of vengeance and the need to be cruel to the enemy. They don't get it. Just as an example, just this past week, I'm reading the OU Torah Tidbits Parsha, and the rabbis, of course, are talking all about Pinchas, and they somehow derive from the episode of Pinchas that Jewish leaders should never be violent. That's the lesson, that Jewish leaders should never be violent. How they came to that conclusion out of Pinchas, you're going to have to read it to see the acrobatics they did. But that's the point, that the Orthodox rabbis, Orthodox Jewry, they don't get it either. So here's Rabbi Kahane speaking to Yeshiva University on this very subject. And just to give you a little bit of background, Rabbi Kahane spoke a couple of times at Yeshiva University. And every time there was a protest outside, the administration didn't want him to speak. I know it's hard to believe that at Yeshiva University, an Orthodox institution, they're also trying to ban Rabbi Kahane from speaking. You thought that was only at places like Harvard, right? But that was the situation. It was always a struggle. And before this particular talk, they were handing out flyers with verses because it's Yeshiva University, it's Orthodox Jews, Torah Jews. And so they were handing out flyers and putting up posters with verses from the prophets, which says, Lo yisagoy al goy cherev, when the nations will turn their swords into plowshares, and prophecies like that, to show that Rabbi Kahane's way, it's not the Jewish way. And what Rabbi Kahane explains here is that it's all a matter of Ol Malchut Shamayim, accepting the yoke of heaven. That even an Orthodox Jew, sometimes if something goes against his grain, against his liberal Western mindset, it's hard for him, lekabel Ol Malchut Shamayim, to accept the yoke of heaven. Remember, a yoke is something that's not pleasant. You can't turn to the right or the left. But that's the mitzvah, to accept the yoke of heaven, even if you don't agree. And so in these couple of minutes I'm going to play for you, that's part of what the rabbi's talking about. And at the end, he's going to talk about that verse, that they shall turn their swords into plowshares. And so let's take a listen.
The Arab question personified the tragedy of what is taking place within Orthodoxy. It personifies the refusal to accept the most important and most basic mitzvah in the entire Torah, Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shamayim, the acceptance of the yoke of heaven by people who are riddled with contradictions. On the one hand, Torah Jews, and on the other hand, liberal Americans. The schizophrenia which forces them to pervert Torah deliberately so that they will be able to somehow wear shatnez with a hechsher. Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shamayim. Because the failure to accept Ol Malchut Shamayim, and in 100 different areas, a perversion of halakha on the part of most people because they're incapable of accepting it, and on the part of some merely because they make a tragic error. The Ramban in Zarim Perek Zayin, Pasuk Tet Zayin, V'achalta et kol ha'amim, and you shall devour all of the nations. Asher Hashem Elokecha noten lach, that the Almighty gives you. Lo tachos eincha lehem, you shall have no pity on them. The Ramban says the following: Ki berachmanut hatipshim, and I hope you're listening. Ki berachmanut hatipshim yovad kol mishpat. Through the mercy of fools is justice lost. The mercy of fools. Rachmanut shel tipshim. What a concept. The Rachmanut shel tipshim. The mercy of fools. Do you know what they will do to us, the Arabs? Do you know what they will do to us if we let them? Do you know? Not for nothing does my support come in such great measure from Sephardic Jews, the last normal people left in the country. They didn't learn about Arabs in a poli-sci class on Amsterdam Avenue. They lived with Arabs. They lived under Arabs. They know what Arabs are. The Rachmanut shel tipshim. Coexist with them. We must have Jewish-Arab coexistence. I'm waiting for Arab coexistence in Beirut. Sunnis to Shiites, Shiites to Jews, Jews to Christians. But we'll live with them in peace. I don't blame Arabs. I understand Arabs. I'm not afraid of Arabs. I'm terrified of this. The Rachmanut shel tipshim. And every Jew who is murdered because an Arab was in the country and killed him. And who was to blame for that? Just the Arab? Or those people that stand and march? Lo yisag goy goy cherem, boker tov, wonderful. As if I don't want to have every single person beating his swords into plowshares. But in the meantime, they have swords and I don't want plowshares.
That was Rabbi Meir Kahane speaking at Yeshiva University in New York, Washington Square, I guess. And you can hear how he kind of wins the crowd over. And in case you didn't get that last remark, there were lots of students who were protesting, and they were singing Lo yisagoy el goy cherem, lo yilamdu od milchama, the famous prophecy that the nations will put away their swords and turn them into plowshares. So the rabbi says at the end there that, look, as long as my enemy has a sword, I don't want to be stuck with a plowshare. In any case, if you want to hear the whole thing, you can email me at lennygoldberg40@gmail.com, lennygoldberg40@gmail.com, and I'll get it out to you. This is really good for someone who learns Torah, who wants to hear sources. It's a totally Torah shiur where the rabbi brings from the Talmud and from the Rambam, etc. And the fact is, when Rabbi Kahane was bringing down a shiur like this, he was totally in his element. As good as he was, as great as he was as a debater, debating Orthodox rabbis, Reform rabbis, Arabs, he debated everybody and killed them all. But when he was coming from the Jewish sources, he was actually most comfortable. He was totally in his element. And in all the times he gave over a shiur like this, that is, he brought down his ideology from a Torah point of view, and he would give these shiurim in yeshivas sometimes, in Israel, or in a religious settlement. I never saw a rabbi get up, or a Talmid Chacham get up, and was able to refute him on what he was saying. It's not like somebody brought another Rambam to contradict what he was saying. And so again, if you want to hear the whole thing, you can email me at lennygoldberg40@gmail.com, lennygoldberg40@gmail.com, and I'll get it out to you. Moving on to American politics, you can't ignore what's going on over there. I mean, America's a train wreck. Look at the Democratic Party. We all knew that Biden had cognitive issues. Anybody could see it. But they kept telling us, no, he's sharp. And then when he exposes himself in that debate, then they get rid of him because now they can't hide it. And now they want to push Kamala Harris on us as if she's normal. Anybody who follows American politics a little bit knows that she's a radical kook. She's no different than the Squad, an empty vessel, Jew-hating piece of trash. But now that she's the candidate, everybody gets in line. All the media, all the talking heads, making her out to be, Mother Teresa. It's unbelievable. And the thing is, people don't know. They don't follow this. Most people don't follow it. The liberals and leftists, they don't have that many podcasters like the right-wingers do. We got Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro, and there's so many of them. And they keep you informed. If you're not listening to that, what are you listening to? Either you're listening to the mainstream media or you don't listen to anything. You don't care. And I was listening to an historian, and he was talking about what it was like before World War II. So this historian, a Jewish guy, he talked about a letter he found from his grandfather in 1933. And you could see from the letter that he had no idea what Hitler was about. It's not just the German Jews didn't think it could happen or didn't believe Hitler. A lot of them didn't even know what he stood for because everybody's just living their life. They're going to work. They're coming home. They're watching the sports. They're going out to eat. They're with their friends. They don't follow politics. Well, that's what it's like in America too. And that's why a lot of Jews voted for Hitler, just like they're going to vote for Kamala Harris maybe. Not maybe. All the liberal Jews are going to vote for her. But the point is, a lot of people, not just Jews, they don't know. They don't follow it. They're not listening to O'Reilly Report, the Fox News. They don't even know what's going on at the border. If you start to talk to them about it, they don't know about it. They said, yeah, is that true? And so the media, without any problem, could just prop up this cackling, incompetent woman and ask her easy questions in softball interviews and talk about the first woman of color and talk about her great record as a prosecutor. Nobody's going to check. Look how long it took people to find out about Biden. If you were following a little bit politics, even before the 2020 elections, you knew the guy would be bad for America, bad for Israel. You knew he was an Obama puppet. Anybody was listening or paying attention. But most people aren't listening. They're not paying attention. They find out at some debate where suddenly he's exposed. That's what you needed to see in order to know that he's not mentally fit to be the president. But that's how it is. That's how most people are. As Alexander Hamilton said, the masses are asses. Or as the rabbi said, the oilim's a goyim. I often end my show with an aliyah pitch, and I want to make an aliyah pitch, which maybe is a little different angle I'm going to take this time, but it's still something very true. One of the best things about making aliyah is you're going to eat healthier food. Or let's say you have the opportunity to eat healthier food if you want to. When I was young, I didn't care what I ate. If I had a bag of Doritos and 7-Up, that was good, as long as it tastes good. Who thought about health? But you get older, and your metabolism changes and body doesn't function the way it used to. You can't just eat what you want. And so I made aliyah at the age of 27. That's still pretty young. And I didn't really change my eating habits in Israel. But in a natural way, you're eating healthier food. Shawarma is probably healthier than a fat corned beef sandwich. I think it is. But the thing is this, as I got older, I realized I can't eat all that junk. I can't drink a cold Coca-Cola every time I'm thirsty. I feel my body starting to pay the price. And so eventually I realized what a lot of people realize after reading about it and talking to people. I have to start eating fruits and vegetables. I got to start eating apples and things like that instead of a candy bar if I want something sweet. My health depends on it. And so that's what I did. I cut out all the junk, started to eat healthy, salads, fruits, vegetables, and I felt better right away. Immediately I felt much better. When I think about it, I don't think I ever had a piece of fruit when I lived in America. Maybe I had vegetables if it was sauteed in Chinese Mandarin Szechuan sauce. That's probably the only kind of vegetables I would touch. I just didn't eat healthy there. And if you want to eat healthy, I think it's a lot easier in Israel. Because I went back to the States and I got a mango. It looked like a mango on the outside anyway, but it wasn't juicy like the ones in Israel. I bought a banana over there, and it's kind of funny. You buy the bananas by individual bananas instead of buying a kilo or a pound of bananas. They come in individual bananas. You buy them as yichidot, as one banana at a time. But that's not the problem. The problem is they look good, but they don't taste so good. It's like Esau, Esav. He came out already made. It's very good on the outside, but on the inside, it's not so good. That's America for you. And so the fruits and vegetables in Israel are so much better. There's no comparison. It's very easy to be healthy in Israel. It really is. So if you're older, and I know it's hard to make aliyah when you're older because the language barrier and all that. But then again, think about your health. When you're older, you can't eat all that junk. You got to eat healthy. And the food in Israel, the healthy food, the salads, the fruits, they're amazing. And they also think there's a lot more consciousness in the subject of health in Israel. There's a lot more health food stores I see around. I don't see too many health food stores in the States. I see a lot of fat people, really fat people. It's like the potato people over there. In Israel, there's a lot less fat people because I think they're eating healthier. The point is, it's easy to be healthy here. The salads are delicious, the fruits, the vegetables. And so you are what you eat, and therefore, that's a good enough reason to make aliyah, to come to Eretz Yisrael, and eat properly. That's it for me, and don't forget to listen to my shiurim in the Tanakh. You can Google Lenny Goldberg's Bible Classes. It's a podcast on Spotify and other platforms. There's nothing more basic than the Bible. Find out how awesome and exciting the Tanakh could be when it's learned properly. And you can check out my website, lennygoldberg.com. There you'll have a link to the classes in the Tanakh, to this podcast, and we have for sale books by Rabbi Meir Kahana and Yamin Zev Kahana, books that you probably won't be able to get anywhere else. So check that out at lennygoldberg.com, and I'll be back next week, same time, same station.